All right, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, welcome back to week one in football. Fall is in the air. Back to school. That means one thing. We're setting our week one lineups and we're here to get started this week. Hopefully, we are not feeling left out because we left Zach Bond on our bench, because we had Keisean Nixon on our bench. Hopefully, we didn't have Jordan Love in too many lineups or across our league, so we're going to be without him for a couple weeks. But we're going to get started this morning talking a little IDP lineup advice. Be sure to hit your comments. Be happy to get you on, answer your questions the best that we can. Hopefully, Mr. J. Kohlhagen will be here sooner than later. He's having a little technical difficulties, but if not, we'll do the best we can. All right, got a couple questions popping in the chat already. A couple questions from some viewers earlier. Left them on the Twitter space yesterday, so we'll take care of those the best that we can. All right, our first question comes from Dan. Oh, and Dan already left Bond on the bench, so that was kind of expected. We didn't know what to expect really with that play, and obviously he's probably going to be the LB1 this week after his 2-sack performance. We'll see what happens with Devin White this week, but so Dan already left Bond on the bench. He needs some points this week to get a win. You need to pick one between Caden Ellis and Ivan Pace this week. Interesting that both of them have some question marks heading into this week. Without having context about scoring, I'm going to lean towards Caden Ellis just more so because of snaps. Caden Ellis has kind of showed up on the questionable tag this week, but appeared yesterday to be ready for the game. We saw Pace kind of playing some limited snaps in preseason with Blake Cashman not only wearing the green top, but also becoming the coming off the field in certain situations. So I think Caden Ellis is just this week, just because of the heavy volume of snaps that he's probably going to see against Pittsburgh. So moving on to our next question here. We got one from Tyler, and Tyler totally punted on defensive back. Needs 2 of these. We have Brandon Jones, PJ Locke, Mike Sanistril, Jason Pinnock, and Quentin Lake. So probably like many of us, we punted on defensive backs just because it's a position to easily fill. And so he's got some options here. And if we're looking, again, here's without knowing scoring, I'm probably going to lean Brandon Jones and Jason Pinnock, probably with Quentin Lake as my third, just because I think that Brandon Jones is going to play a little bit closer to the line than PJ Locke is this week in Denver. Pinnock's been kind of proven more so than any of these other names on this list, so he probably gets the nod for me. But I do like the upside of Quentin Lake this week, just because after the Ernest Jones trade, like literally everybody on that defense had an opportunity to become the next guy up. So Quentin Lake might be a sneaky play. So good luck to you, Tyler. Got some comments coming in here on the stream. Morning, Roger. Thanks for checking in. Thoughts on Logan Wilson versus New England? Also have Mac Wilson as a viable option versus Buffalo. Is Troy Anderson a start in Pittsburgh? Great question. If I'm picking one of these, I am definitely going to lean Logan Wilson. Of them, he's got the highest floor, highest upside of them. Mac Wilson's probably going to be playing second fiddle to Kaiser White. Not really sure what that defense is going to look like. I like Mac as like a bye week replacement. Troy Anderson was kind of getting some buzz this week, especially with Caden Ellis and Nate Landman being kind of dinged up. There's just so many question marks around that situation right now. It's probably one where I'm avoiding that situation, but I don't have to have that thought with Logan Wilson. He's definitely going to be my start this week. That's the interesting thing too about week one is so many questions. We really can't base it off of last season's performances at all. So many new defensive coordinators have come in, so many moving parts with all of this. It's really starting off at zero. And so we just have to go with what we feel is the best right now with what we saw in preseason, what we heard during training camps and things like that. And right now that's leaning towards Logan Wilson. So thanks for the question, Roger. Next one up. Jake Hansen or Mac Wilson? Thank you. This one I'm probably going to lead Mac Wilson just for the sake that probably going to get a few more consistent snaps than Hansen's going to get. J-Dub, thanks for the question. It says, are you feeling confident again about Chin as a starter? I'm starting him over Byard and Justin Simmons. Everything that we have heard this season, everything we heard the offseason training camp was, everything is definitely leaning towards a bounce back season for Chin. He's playing in an offense with a head coach who loves playing safeties in Dan Quinn. We saw that in his time in Dallas. All three safeties became viable options. Chin made his career in the 1 or 2.5 seasons that he played well as being that in the box kind of safety. And so, yeah, I'm definitely going to take a chance on Chin this week, especially over Byard, who's probably going to play a little more, 50-50 split with Brisker in that Chicago secondary. And who knows what Justin Simmons is going to look like. We haven't seen him on the field in Atlanta yet. He's traditionally been a deeper safety, and that's kind of where he's excelled. And so I'm going to lean towards Chin, especially in a tackle league, just for that safety and consistency in points. So those are viable options for you too, but I'm definitely going to lead Chin in that situation. So hopefully that helps out there. Let's see if we got a few more coming in on X. Got a question here about CJ Mosley looking at an option for us. So you're most welcome, Jada. Hopefully it helps. Good luck to you in week 1. Hopefully we see you back in week 2. So kind of thinking, like as week 1 kind of approaches and looking at options, again, we can only go off of what we see in training camp. And with so many new players and so many new positions, it's really important for you to kind of think about not thinking so much about what happened last year, because last year was, last year. And that's why training camp, watching training camp reports, watching the preseason, and not necessarily who plays in the preseason games is important, but it's also really important about who's getting the reps during the week. There's so many of the teams that run joint practices now that the coaches get to see what they need to see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they don't necessarily need to see it on Friday or Saturday's game. So we might not see a player out there like Zach Vaughn played very few snaps during the preseason games, but during the weeks, during the reps when they really mattered, he was getting a lot of reps, and hopefully you tuned into some of that and we're able to pick him up and stash him in some places, and maybe that'll pay off for you next week. Our good friend Rogaru is back from last season. A lot of questions last season, so thanks for coming back. Good morning, IDP fam. I missed out playing on Keisean Nixon, as did many of us. So is that a performance we can expect the rest of the season? He had a fantastic game. I think he had 7 tackles, a sack, nearly had a pick 6, which would have definitely been icing the game. I think one thing that we need to take away from that game is that the Packer defense is going to look very different this year. We saw a lot of 3 linebacker looks at times. So I think that we were kind of disappointed we didn't see the return yards that we were all kind of banking on and drafting Keisean Nixon to get. I think he only had like 1 attempt, but it looked like he played a high percentage of snaps. It looks like he was in a high position to get a lot of tackles on the field. So I don't know if we can expect the 7 tackle performance every week, but he's probably definitely going to become a viable option for us. Jake, how you doing? And Jake froze up. Jake, are you there? Jake,
I'm here. Am I good on your end?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. This is not fun.
Some technical difficulties this morning, but you battled through, persevered, you made it. Welcome in.
Yes,
So
sir.
being
Good to be
closer
here.
to
Good to
Green
be
Bay,
here.
being closer to Green Bay than I am, Jake, what are your thoughts on Keisean Nixon going forward?
I think we saw exactly what we want to see in terms of usage outside of the return stuff. And I think you kind of alluded to that a bit, but In a deeper league, he's going to be, I think, set it and forget it or cornerback required. I think he's definitely there for us. Yeah, I think a slight anomaly, right? I don't expect those types of that level of production consistently, but he showed us exactly what his ceiling can be. And so I'm comfortable, like I said, starting him any cornerback required league. If you're only starting 2 DBs, that's going to be tough, right? I mean, you really got to play your matchups at that point. So I like him. We liked him going into this year. I think we liked him last year too. It's just I don't think you should expect that level of production every week.
Yeah, and he only ended up playing like 52 of the 76 snaps too. So we're only playing, 75, 60, 80% of the snaps. So that's going to be tough to maintain that high floor. Like you're not going to maintain that efficiency week in and week out. So feels so good to be back with you, Jake. I missed you.
I know, right?
This was
like we usually get that 15
this
minutes
was our
ahead
Sunday
of time.
morning jam.
We can touch base, we can level set, we can just do whatever. Nope, I got to fight with my internet for the last 30, 35 minutes. It's just to have it be mediocre at best here for us. So,
and you won. You already won the week.
Jamar Chase starts today and plays a decent amount of snaps. Then I'll win this week.
Okay. Next question up is from Rob Kane. Start to Spillane, Watt, Demario Davis, Hines Allen, Devin Lloyd, Ivan Pace, or Ernest Jones. So starting to, not sure if we got any scoring, like if it's a big play, tackle heavy. But Jake, what are you thinking? Who's the one name that pops for you off of this list?
I mean, yeah, without full understanding of scoring, right? If we're just going to kind of assume some sort of balanced scoring, generally tend to lean linebackers, right? Because just if you're leaning on, especially like a Josh Hines Allen, you really need the sack, I think, to potentially outperform a lot of the other linebackers on this list. Namely Spillane and Devin Lloyd, really the two that stand out for me. T.J. Watt is it's obviously a game record. We've seen him do it for so many years that I think, as long as you're not super depressed big play scoring, sacks, forced fumbles, those types of things, he's probably in there for me regardless, just because that's week winning performance that he can provide your lineup every time. So I think you have to have him in there. Outside of that, I probably lean Devin Lloyd just a little bit. It's between him and Spillane. Pace, the whole green dot, not green dot. Cashman's there now. I'm a little hesitant there. Just I want to see week one. I want to see utilization, right? Because we don't want that second linebacker look where he's getting 75% of the snaps. That's not something I'm going to be comfortable with week one. We know Spillane, we know Lloyd are gonna get those snaps. So I'm leaning Watt. Lloyd, Spillane is kind of splitting hairs for me. I don't know. Where do you land on this one?
I'm kind of with you. It's hard to sit Watt, especially because he's such a player that can just dominate a game and take one over on his own. So if I were picking two, I would be picking Watt and Spillane. Spillane just had an amazing season last year. He's got the trust of his head coach, Antonio Pierce. They've got the defense centered around him. He was told he was going to be the guy. He stepped up. He did it, and he didn't disappoint. So like you said with Hines Allen, he's banking on that sack and not sure if we're going to get it. Question marks around Pace's playing. Demario Davis is banged up. That whole Saints linebacking core is kind of questionable, and Davis is like close to 300 years old. So, at any time we got that issue going on. And then Ernest Jones probably not going to play 100% of snaps, doesn't have the defense down yet. Head coach came out and said that, we'll slowly ramp him up. And so that gives me pause on him playing 100%. So
yeah,
that's
a good call on Ernest, right? Like Ernest should be on your bench until we know what happens week one, possibly even week two, right? Unless we're getting some really positive news next week about his utilization. Yeah, and just looking back at some things here too, right? The Jags got Tua and the Dolphins, and they're one of the teams that get the ball out the fastest consistently. That's not great for those big play opportunity upside. So if someone can do it on that defensive front, it is Hines Allen, but it's not something week one I'm going to be banking on.
Yeah. You in this situation, you kind of want to pick your guys that or have proven track records a little bit and not get too cute. Jake, you brought up a great question or comment thought with Ernest Jones. How deep of a league do we need to be playing in where Ernest Jones becomes an option for us this week? Is he a linebacker 3, like looking at like top 36 linebacker? Is he the linebacker 4, top 48? Where are you feeling comfortable throwing Ernest Jones in your lineup?
Yeah, I think
Or
you
are
hit
you?
that like yeah, I think you hit that over underline perfect, right? It's that linebacker 3, linebacker 4 threshold to me, right? Because again, we're just talking standard league type thing here, right? 12 team, starting 3 linebackers, 36 linebackers. Are there 36 that I could find in front of him? Absolutely, right? But does he have the big play upside or the skill set that he's shown us in the past where it's like, could he do a little bit more with a little less than some of these other guys that are seeing 85, 90, 95% plus of their snaps? Possibly. But, the human element of this comes into play too much for me that he is someone who has had limited time with this coaching staff. There's not some sort of connection that I can find in the coaching tree, right? Where, this former defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, whatever, right? Where it's like, okay, we brought this guy in because he knows my system and it's going to be plug and play. There's an uptake to this, right? I mean, it's part of the onboarding process in the professional world.
Yep.
And so, with that said, I just don't feel good until Tennessee can show me that they're ready to trust him 90+% of the snaps. And they have someone very capable in Jack Gibbons who can rotate with him, who can be in there in, more complex situations based on what he did last year, what he showed us preseason. So, I mean, he's a full, really for me sit and wait unless I really need a linebacker 4 that I got to plug in. But that's probably where my confidence / comfort level would start.
And taking nothing away from Ernest Jones's play, but how much of his play or stats came from being like a one linebacker predominant look in LA? Like, he was almost in the right situation at the right time, playing in that one linebacker look in LA. So of course he's going to have some gaudy stats just because he, by volume based alone, he's going to be that guy. So, is he really that linebacker, or was it just a product of the situation? So as with all IDP, it is. But to what extent is he going to be able to play?
Yep.
Just kind of taking a look over here at the IDP rankings for the week. I kind of wanted to see where Mr. Green Dot himself had Ernest Jones ranked, and he's got him ranked as linebacker 59 this week. So a little bit lower
back
than
end
even
LB5.
Yeah. And I think the consensus here is just we need to see something first. And, he had 12 days since the day he was traded to the start of the game. And so there's no way he's going to be able to pick up that, that playbook, and it's kind of funny to think about a playbook being on the defensive side, like see ball, hit ball, but there's a lot of ins and outs to that. So sorry to go down that rabbit hole. Let's continue here. Daniel's asking, how do you feel? Do you feel good starting Latu this week in week 1? I guess the short answer is maybe, depending on what are the other options. It's just, I think the injuries that Indianapolis suffered this season definitely has helped his chance of being a viable option this season.
Mm-hmm.
Before the injury to Samson Ebicam, I'm not sure if I personally would have trusted him playing like in a lot of weeks, but I think now just based on volume, he's going to get that opportunity. Obviously, he was the first defensive player drafted in April. Yeah, Jake, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you're spot on, right? I mean, again, in a vacuum, am I comfortable starting him? Way more than I was, prior to the Ebicam injury, right? Now he's looking like someone who, even if they find a way to make that rotation slightly deeper, he's probably still talking 65, 70% of the snaps. And to get that from really any edge rusher is solid. I think, too many people get spoiled by the Max Crosby thoughts of the world, right? Like no defensive lineman is playing 1,000 snaps in a season consistently outside of Max Crosby, which is always still blows my mind. As far as you just look at the matchup, taking on my Houston Texans this week, I'm excited about their offensive line. They've done a lot to try to get some consistency there. They had a lot of issues with it last year early in the season. Looked a little bit better, and by better I mean almost average in the second half of the year. So I think this is probably something where, again, the end all answer is, you hopefully maybe have a couple better options than him. But if you're talking DL3, I think this is something where I wouldn't have that big of hesitancy to plug him in as a DL3 in our lineups this week.
1,000%. Like, depending on what my other options are, unless you're playing in like a super deep league that has, some scoring that has for rookie defensive ends getting sacks or tackles, he might, again, kind of wait and see. With all these rookies, we're going to have to wait and see. There's such a learning curve for them, and it's really tough for, I think, a rookie to come in and take over for a veteran. I know we all want it. We saw it last year with Jack Campbell. This year we have the linebackers like Edgerrin Cooper's, hasn't had a great training camp, kind of dinged up a little bit. So I think these rookies are probably more like a stash than what we want them to be year one. So I'm still licking my wounds from Jack Campbell, but we digress.
I put Dean into a couple lineups too, Rob. I feel you. When I saw Love stutter step, float that ball to the side, hit Dean in both hands with nothing but grass in front of him. Oh my gosh, I was so sad.
You're supposed to be a Packer fan, Jake. You're proximity wise. SRM, please pick two. Looks like a cornerback required league here. We got Christian Benford from the Buffalo Bills, Keisean Carson from the Dallas Cowboys, Christian Gonzalez from the Patriots, Mike Hilton. Is he in Bengals now? Yeah.
Yep.
And then Alton Taylor, he's the Saints.
Yep.
I did a lot of stuff last week about Keisean Carson just stepping up for Deron Bland. He's in a great spot. I think that the offense forces teams to put up some points. This week they play Cleveland, so I think it's going to be a little bit tighter of a game. He plays opposite a kind of a proven stud, so he might get that like rookie treatment, kind of targeting him there. But he kind of picked up an injury late in the week, so gave me some pause with him. The one name that really sticks out on this list for me is Mike Hilton. I just think he's got that proven track record. He's going to be playing in a team that's going to be scoring some points with Cincinnati. Cincinnati gets the Patriots this week. I think there's an opportunity for some floated balls from either Brissett and or May. So he's my one for me. Jake, is there one that kind of sticks out to you?
I'm a big Alante Taylor fan. I love what he's done out of the slot. Obviously, I have a slot preference whenever it comes to my cornerbacks, especially ones that find a way to stick out there when there's two cornerback sets as well. Taylor did that at times last year. Some of it may be out of necessity for the team, but they roll back the same defensive scheme and coaching for the most part there in New Orleans. So what I saw there, what I like with him, to me, he kind of stands out as my number one. Hilton is, speaking of slot defenders and delivering some IDP value, Mike Hilton is no stranger to that as well. So totally get why you'd like him there. My number two, I actually lean Christian Gonzalez in a matchup there where, potentially no Chase, no T Higgins. It's not that the Bengals will still try and force the ball a ton, but heck, even when they had Jake Browning, they were still one of the most pass heavy teams per given game script at that time. And I don't know that really changes a ton. I think that they want to throw the ball first. That's why they were comfortable with Mixon leaving. Christian Gonzalez, showed some flashes last year before his injury. So normally I don't tend to lean into outside corners too heavy, but I think that that's one where actually I like everything you said with Carson, with Hilton too. It would be Taylor, then Gonzalez, and Hilton for me. So you can maybe split the difference, and Hilton ends up in one of those two for you.
Yeah, I agree. Like Gonzalez was one of but he would have been my number two. So taking nothing away from Carson, again, we need to see it out there. Plus he's got that injury designation, so a little worrisome there. So hopefully that helps.
It's one of those things, it's week one too. I'm week ones, I tend to lean so heavily into my knowns, right? Like
and Jake froze up, but we're going to continue on. Oh, and Jake's back. He's back. So
yeah, start what you know, or lean into what you know in week one is the short answer.
A little Max Headroom moment there, Jake. I was kind of waiting for you to. BK Broiler wants to know, with an eye to Monday night, what sort of usage will Mike McDonald? Would you make him worth a stash? Um, Again, depending on depth and how many roster spots you're taking up, I think Will McDonald's kind of one of those fringe players that will be on the waiver wires in many leagues. He'll be a player that will be like, oh, it's a player I should pick up. Then you pick him up, and then you're kind of disappointed starting him over different options. Again, without knowing usage on the new team, he went from Jets to Broncos, correct?
No, he's on the Jets still, right? But now they let Bryce Huff walk, and
Yep. Oh, that's right. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because he was a first round pick last year, number 14 overall, I think, right? Or somewhere around there, somewhere in the middle of the first round. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I know Reddick's out, so it's like, oh, he could see a nice uptick in snap. At least we assume Reddick's out, right? Just all of a sudden,
Yep.
something crazy happens. But I don't see it. I don't see him playing Monday night. To me, this is, if you got a spot on the back of your roster, right, where you're just like, this is, do I want to keep my ninth RB or Will McDonald? Sure, throw Will McDonald out there, or not out there, but put him on the back of your bench, and yeah, see what happens, right? Because all of a sudden he's out there getting 70% of the snaps. He looks good. He's first round draft capital. But yeah, we're not plugging him in anything but the absolute deepest of leagues. And yeah, he's worth a deep stash if you can justify the roster space.
Here's a little more context too with that one. 12-team league, 2 defensive linemen, 2 linebacker, 2 defensive backs, and 2 flex spot safeties. So definitely playing in a deeper league where Will McDonald might be an option, at some point down the road, bye weeks and things like that. Robert Saleh did say it's unlikely for Reddick to play this week yesterday, which doesn't surprise anyone. But I think that kind of plays into it a little bit too. If Reddick, if they have a down week, especially if they lose, the Jets have this window to win now. I think like if they do take a loss on Monday night, they're going to be a little more amped to pay Reddick what he's. And then if he comes in, what does that do to Will McDonald snaps? We have a lot of these players like a McDonald, like a Huff, who's playing on a new team, who are pretty excited about the possibilities of maybe getting a little more run, getting more snaps. But then we take a look at Friday night, we look at Bryce Huff. Like he had like maybe a tackle in the whole game. So here's all this pump, all this hype about a new player in a new spot. We're all excited about him. And then, there's a transition period for them too. So Holland. Oh, yeah, perfect. Okay, there we go. Rogaroo, pick 3. Rayshon Jenkins, Julian Blackmon, Jalen Thompson, or Josh Metellus. So which of these 3, I guess it'll be easier, which of the 3 do you bench, Jake?
So, I mean, yeah, for me, it really comes down to Rayshon Jenkins and Jalen Thompson for me. Blackmon and Metellus are auto starts. I mean, they're top 24 for me. So, I mean, like I said, they're locked in pretty much most lineups. Yeah, Rayshon Jenkins is someone who, from a numbers perspective, was always a darling to me. The guy basically was a third linebacker for his career in Jacksonville. Then we saw very little delivered in the first 50% of his time there. I'm sure many people, especially those who either played him or started it or played against him when he played the Cowboys a couple years ago and dropped like a 50 burger with a pick 6 and overtime on Dak to win it. So I'm sure some people have some sentimental tie in there. Jalen Thompson, stood out a few years back with 100+ tackle season alongside Budda Baker. That Jonathan Gannon defense looks to be very just split too high. But they like to rotate down a little bit, but sometimes it's Budda, sometimes it's Jalen. It's really, nothing consistent versus Blackmon, who lives inside the box in Gus Bradley's cover 3 scheme. So I think I've just seen.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely be leaning Metellus, Blackmon, and I'm going to pick I'm going to lean towards Thompson just because I know what I get with Thompson on that defense. He's been there before. Jenkins is on a new team. We don't really know his role there. We're not really sure what the linebackers are going to be like in front of him with Dodson and Baker there. Julian Love is there, who is one of my favorite defensive backs. Not really sure that he's going to do more than Love has already been doing on that defense. So I'm going to lean Thompson in week 1, especially until we kind of see Jenkins roll in that new defense in Seattle. So, Jake, is that kind of where you're at with that?
Yep. Metellus,
Okay.
Blackman, Thompson, easily in that order for me, I think.
Okay. All right. We'll get another defensive back question coming up, and this is where the Holland comment came from. So, Holland, Blackman, or Jenkins. So Blackman and Jenkins are definitely getting a lot of fringe questions here today. So, is there a name that's on that list that just has to be in your lineup, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at just one there, I mean, I think we know Jenkins is at the bottom, right? Because we know Blackman's above based on the last discussion. So it's really Holland or Blackman for me. To me, this is more of a roster construction question because I really like both Holland and Blackman. To me, if you want the safer play, I like Blackman. If you want the bigger upside play, I like Holland. So really, to me, that's again, I don't see a massive difference between floor and ceiling between both. I just think Holland has a slightly better ceiling. I think Blackman has a slightly better floor, heavily based on alignment stuff. Now then again, Miami changed its defensive schemes, right? With the defensive coordinators change this last offseason. So my previous comment of lean into what you know, Blackman is, again, probably truly the safest play out of these ones that has a really good floor with it. So wherever your comfort level lies in that, I think that's where you go. But Blackman safest, Holland upside, Jenkins, good name, good play for, that DB3 range. But for me right now, those are the two I'm looking at.
Jake, do you look at opponent at all when you look at something like this? Because both of them have really good matchups, I feel, this week. Blackman playing Houston, probably going to throw quite a bit, maybe a little more opportunity, those 3 wide receiver looks and things like that. Obviously, Holland's got a great matchup this week. Miami's taking on
Jacksonville.
So I think that's going to be a shootout. There's a lot of potential for fireworks there. Do you take that into consideration when you're looking at like who to start, who to sit?
I think a little bit. To me, it ends up just being more like, Jacksonville, Miami has a really good over-under. So there's very likely that there's just going to be a lot of passing, ball moving, a lot of opportunities. And so beyond that, I try not to, again, same thing, right? Like I even as a Texans fan, I think I know what's best and what they will do as a team. We can base it on offseason moves, contracts, what we saw in preseason. But too many times, I mean, remember when Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense scored touchdowns on every single drive last year in the preseason? Like, I don't know. I struggle to put too much into that. And like I said, I just go into what I know the best. And I know that Gus Bradley and Julian Blackman, he loves living inside that box, in that forward safety role. So not until week 2 or 3 am I really leaning more heavily into, what we see on the other side of the ball too, because same thing, like the Colts played a ton of snaps defensively last year because that's how Shane Steichen ran the offense, right? It was fast pace, as many plays as possible. Is that still the same? Hope so, right? So now it could be positive there, but I don't know. That again, lean into the knowns.
Yeah, 100%. I think also playing a league where we start 2 safeties currently starting Curl and Petrie. Might be overthinking it, but could Ernest Jones leaving be a good thing for Curl's role? I 1,000% think he's probably the one to benefit the most from all this. I don't think there is a clear answer. Maybe we won't get a clear answer on who the linebacker to own is this season. I think the whole linebacker room got a nod from someone at some point during the last 12 days about who's going to be the guy between Roseboom, between Spate, between Hummel. I mean, every one of those players had like someone say, beat the drum for him. So I think Curl is going to be the best beneficiary of this whole group because we saw it in Washington. He was that almost third linebacker at times coming down in the box and stuff like that. So I think Curl is going to be top 10, set and forget it all season long. I don't think there's a time, barring injury, that he comes out of your lineup or the bye week. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, right?
Yeah. Yep. I was hoping to get a Curl comment in because that way you could point and use your Curl reference with the jersey there. So big fan.
Dude,
Big fan.
am I back? This is killing me here.
You're back. You're back.
Oh,
You're back.
yeah.
Don't worry. You got
Yeah. Curl's a big one. Again, we don't know, like we just talked about, but yeah, like you said, based on usage, based on what he's shown us he can do, there's definitely, I think, a narrative that, hey, they're comfortable moving on because what they have in the linebacker room, plus what they have in Curl, and as an ancillary piece to that linebacker room, absolutely. So again, and that's where we didn't see a ton of Curl in the preseason, so it's hard to say for sure everything, but that's why we love week one. We get to take our victory laps, or we get to hide in the corner after we got everything wrong. So
I think that's a safe one where I don't think we need to be wrong on. So
yeah.
So flex spot, balance scoring, Branch, Highsmith, or Mac Wilson. For me, it's going to come down between Branch and Highsmith on this one. When I see balance scoring, I think balance scoring is pretty, tackles and sacks are pretty even. Whereas, like, if it was a sack league, I would probably lean Highsmith just because of that upside. But I like the high floor Branch. I think he moved from the slot corner spot last season to a safety spot this season. I think it's kind of more of a natural role for him in his time in Alabama. I like him this season, so I'm going to lean Branch in this one.
So I'm with you in the initial assessment, right? Mac Wilson's out for me. So it really is Branch or Highsmith. I'm a little different than you. I like Highsmith a little bit better, even in balanced scoring, just because he's one of those high volume defensive ends, and even if he doesn't find a way to give you the sack, I think he can still give you a decent floor in tackles. But I like his upside in sacks enough, and I think for NFL purposes he'll be great in a deep safety role. He's played downhill very well, especially at Alabama. He did play a ton of slot at Alabama too, but I don't know. I do have some pause for his potential IDP production. Rams is a great matchup to try and mask some of that, though, just with how that game could look. So I feel like we're splitting hairs here, but for the sake of making a decision, I would lean Highsmith slightly over Branch.
So Jake, as you were digressing there, it kind of made me think, like, when you set a lineup, do you sometimes look at the matchup you're facing? Like, man, I need a lot of points this week. I need a home run. If I need a home run, is Highsmith makes sense, right? Because he could be the week winning performance. Whereas Branch is probably going to be a little bit safer play. I just need safe points this week. Maybe I already had a great start on Thursday night, Friday night. I just need to have safe points. I can't take a goose egg, which a defensive end is capable of delivering to. So maybe some of that kind of plays into your lineup construction for the week. Having 2 games already played this week kind of gives you an idea. Like, am I chasing? Am I feeling safe? So maybe that's kind of something to consider too going into your 12 o'clock start. So
100% agree. Good call out.
Is Bond worth a pickup and worth starting year long? Almost has to be. He's probably going to be linebacker 1 this week in scoring. I don't think there was anything in the game that he did that would take him off the field. It'll be an interesting week this week, I think, in Philly, because there were some rumblings of the Eagles trying to trade Devin White away, that he was getting outplayed in preseason by both Bond and Dean. And so I just think that it'll be an interesting week in camp. And then all of a sudden he pop up with this mysterious ankle injury. Like, that just kind of, the timing of it all just kind of seemed too coincidental. The NFL is kind of weird like that. So, and there was a reason Tampa Bay let Devin White go. Like, he was very poor efficiency, graded out poorly. Outside of his rookie season or the second year that he played, he really wasn't a solid linebacker. Levante David was clearly the best linebacker in Tampa. So I definitely think he's worth picking up. I think he's right on that fringe linebacker 2, linebacker 3 range. I don't expect, the performance that we saw on Friday night from him every week, but he's definitely a blitzing linebacker. So he's going to get those sacks and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, Jake.
I mean, he's 100% worth a pickup. I mean, there's no doubt in that. As far as starting him year long, yep, it's got to be, deep enough league for that. So I'll be 300% comfortable with him there. Don't let, we say lean into the knowns, or at least I've been saying that, but don't overreact either to what we do now know and what we saw in week 1 with him, in terms of oh, this guy's going to be an absolute tackling machine. I think he ended up with like a near 25% tackle rate. That's obviously not sustainable throughout the year. But everything you talked about with the narrative behind, how Zach Bond got out onto the field, I'm 100% buying into. There's talks about him, losing the captain patch mid-season at one point, while with Tampa Bay. Like there's clearly just issues with him and coaching staffs in terms of just those interactions and personal matters. So again, that's a really real element of what happens on the NFL field, which then by extension impacts what we do here as the fun game we play. So you need to have him rostered in your league if he's available. He has I think, almost certainty of being a consistent LB3 in a lineup with potential way more upside, especially, if he truly gets, as many pass rush opportunities as he does. He got 13 pass rush opportunities, obviously super high conversion and turning that into 2 sacks. But I mean, he had 4 pressures to go along with that, 2 and 2 hurries. So I mean, he was getting in there and making noise. And then he has the safety of the off-ball play in terms of the tackle floor that he can provide you. Again, not leaning into that he's going to pick up 13, 14, 15 tackles every week. But yeah, I mean, he should not be on any waiver wire anywhere.
Yeah. It's interesting, his path to starting. Like, he was definitely like almost like an edge, usage in the Saints. They kind of had him as like that outside linebacker, definitely outside linebacker edge piece where he was just a pass rushing specialist. And then they brought him in, and Fangio kind of moved him into the inside of the linebacker room, and then all of a sudden he just kind of takes off. A lot of Wisconsin Badger linebackers right now in the NFL. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So right, we're Wisconsin natives, right? But in a lot of my like home league chats, that was the big, is Wisconsin the next linebacker? And it's like
linebacker, yep.
Might be.
Yeah. There we go. Got a question from Lance off of Twitter. Lance is in a tackle heavy league. He also punted on defensive backs. He drafted McDuffie, didn't start him. He's got Byard, Chuck Clark, Marcus Epps, Xavier Worthy, and have Nate Hobbs available to pick up. So thinking he needs to start 2 this week between Byard, Chuck Clark, Marcus Epps, Xavier Woods, and he could pick up Nate Hobbs. For me, I think Chuck Clark is getting not as much pub as he probably should. He's going to be the starting safety in New York. I think he's going to play with a big chip on his shoulder this year just because he was let go from Baltimore, all of that narrative. I think he's probably for sure one of mine, and I'm almost leaning towards Nate Hobbs over the other ones here, just because Byard plays a lot of deep safety. He did that in Tennessee. Again, it's an unknown in Chicago right now. We don't know the role between him and Brisker, where that's going to kind of play out. Chuck Clark just seems like a safer play, and I like Hobbs playing in that slot corner spot. He's always been a 4 or 5 tackle a week kind of player, not afraid to stick his nose in on those running plays. So he's probably going to be the pickup for me. Him and Clark will be my starts. So see a lot of head nodding, Jake. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, no, it's my neck's got a.
Oh, is it?
Trying to stretch it. No, Nate Hobbs. I mean, again, that's a surprise that he's out there. Again, I know he's a cornerback, right? So some people can get scared off by that designation, but I mean, he is a full-time slot defender when that rolls on the field for that defense. He can slide outside, right? He's never coming off the field, barring injury. And he is phenomenal in run defense. So he has a great floor for that in terms of a play for us each week. He's shown big play upside too, but he doesn't need that to make him relevant for you. He can do it in other ways more consistently. So Hobbs is, I think, easily number 1 for me. I love that you have McDuffie. It was probably the right thing that you didn't start him though. He didn't get a chance to make as many plays out there, it seemed like. So I'd probably lean Chuck Clark too, just because I think he's shown us more in terms of playing downhill. And yeah, I think Byard's probably going to be relegated more to that deeper safety role look with Brisker there, because Brisker's shown us how effective he can be on the line, in the box, even in the slot at times. So I think Byard's a nice depth piece, but yeah, Hobbs, Clark pretty easily. I just should have Hobbs ahead of Clark, but you're picking 2. So
Yeah. Jake, are you? So I'm glad you mentioned Brisker because he's a player I have plenty of shares of. Are you at all like worried about him playing more of a 50-50 split now that he's got fired in town? Or is that going to kind of be more Brisker still playing that traditional role in the box, or more left side, right side, kind of being more fluid than in years past?
yeah, I think it should be a little more fluid than it's been in the past, but that's only because Byard has shown us at times. Like I think even with Philadelphia, he came down. You know, when he was traded midseason, he came down and played some box alignment a little bit for them because they really didn't have much at that time after some injuries. But Brisker's just shown us too much. He has familiarity with the coaching staff. I think you don't stray too much away from it. You vary it up because obviously you want to give different looks, but in the end, they're going to have their roles, in my opinion, and Brisker's going to be the one that you're going to want closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and Eddie Jackson, I feel, is just very much a deep play. You know, like that was his role on the defense where, you know, they complemented each other really well. I see Byard being more of an in the box, so we might see a slight regression, I think, from Brisker playing less in the box than either last season, just because there's more flexibility on that defense. So, got another Twitter question here from Carmelo. Wanted to know KJ Britt or Javon Baker this week. This is an easy one for me. I'm going to let you take this one first, Jake.
Yeah. Jerome Baker, unless because you said Javon Baker. I don't unless maybe they have wide receiver linebacker split designation. Yeah. Sorry. To me, it's KJ Britt. Jerome Baker has some pass rushing chops that he's shown at times, you know, and that's cool and all, but again, new scheme. I don't know that he's going to get a ton of pass rush opportunities, and then on top of that, his tackle floor has always been pretty inconsistent. So it's hands down KJ Britt for me, you know, 90-10.
Oh yeah. Yep. 100% for me. I've been beating the drum KJ Britt all off season. He's been my flag plant kind of guy, just because the few games that we saw him at the end of last season, coaches love him. Players on the defense love him. He's just that old school, like gritty linebacker, trash talking, stuff like that. So I've been on him all season. And the other thing too is, you know, Baker's kind of dinged up a little bit, you know, so that's kind of in that narrative too. You know, if Tyrese Knight's available in some of your deeper leagues, maybe he's a stash to throw in just because you don't know when Baker might go down, that Knight gets the call. So Jake, we have over 200 people watching this right now, man. We are
on purpose.
I don't know. Maybe by accident they just like keyboard smash, but here we are. We're at 200 views right now. So this is good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Let's see. We did that question. One's worth picking up. Here we go. Rousseau or Jermaine Johnson, IDP 1-2-3 scoring. So this definitely IDP 1-2-3 scoring is definitely heavy favored. QB hits, sacks, those kind of things. Who do you like more this week, Jake, as far as an option here between Jermaine Johnson Monday night? The Jets play San Francisco. Pretty good offensive line. They got Trent Williams back this week. He's kind of motivated to play. And then you're looking at Rousseau playing at Buffalo. They take on the Arizona Cardinals. So probably a little bit weaker matchup. So who do you got?
Yeah, in a vacuum, Jermaine Johnson, hands down for me. I was a big Rousseau fan, but I was a bigger Jermaine Johnson fan. You know, we talked about Reddick's not going to be out there. So Johnson showed some real high-level flashes last season. Now, most likely a full complement of snaps, limited rotation, proven ability. Yeah, I'm locked in on Johnson, even though Rousseau maybe does have, I think, the little bit better matchup overall. I'm pretty solidly Johnson for me.
Same. I've been on Johnson probably a year or two soon. I was in on him last year pretty heavily. Didn't get the run out. Hopefully this year without Huff there, without now Reddick there, I think he's going to play a lot of snaps. So I'm hoping that we see a breakout performance from him. So he's definitely my boy this week too. Ernest Jones or Quentin Williams. I think we kind of talked a lot about this a little bit earlier about how we can't really trust Ernest Jones yet. Quentin Williams is definitely, or a really viable option at the linebacker spot. I think sometimes overlooked. It's a pretty easy one for me. So I don't know, Jake, anything different?
Yeah, I don't hang on to the name value from Ernest Jones last season for week 1. Like we said, let week 1 play out, and we'll move on from there. So before week 1, yeah, Williams, easy start over Jones.
Is that Quentin Williams, the defensive lineman, or Quincy Williams, the linebacker? I'm wondering if they're two different.
Again, assuming relatively balanced scoring. If Quinnen was the case, I think I'd still go Quinnen over him, just because Quinnen can absolutely wreck a game, even from that defensive interior spot. And Quincy, his younger brother, can just pile up the tackles, obviously, behind that. So, and Jones is just too unknown. So, Quincy, Quinnen, we're starting all the Williams brothers. So
we're starting. Yeah, if it's a New York Jet, we're starting them. So we're thoughts on Chuck Clark? Nobody was really talking about. We actually did talk just about Chuck Clark. Yeah. Following up, Chuck Clark or Brisker. We do like Chuck Clark, but I think Brisker is probably a top 12 in most rankings, probably upper top 6 in some regards. We did talk a little bit about the regression possibly with Brisker's line of scrimmage snaps, but I still think he's just got the higher floor week in and week out. Chuck Clark is probably like a safety 3-4 for me in most weeks. Brisker is going to be hard to be anything less than a safety 1 for me. So anything else with that one, Jake?
Nope. You nailed it. You did a nice little monologue on Clark before, but Brisker definitely aligns in front of him, I think, pretty easily for both of us. So yeah, Brisker all day here today.
Hannah's asking, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the live show. Lots of Blackman questions and Curl comments. So here's another one. Cameron Curl, Tre'Davious Ward, or Blackman? Pick one. Curl all day, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to be a little bit of my bias showing through, but hopefully more of my analytical is the leading this thought process. But yeah, it's Curl, Blackman, Ward pretty easily in that order. Again, if I've been preaching the narrative or the thought process of lean into your knowns. Blackman has more known at this point, not having switched coaching staffs and location and everything this week. So I could be okay with the belief or the thought process of putting Blackman in over Curl just from that standpoint. But the talent for Curl for me is too strong that I would probably lean Curl over Blackman, or I would lean Curl over Blackman here in week 1.
Yeah, Curl again. I think he's going to be tough to ding down anything less than a safety 1 all season long, barring health. The situation talent is too good for me to do anything different with. So, JP, balanced scoring for season long. Which LB 3-4 do you keep? Cashman, Dodson, Jewell, White, or Britt? Whew. You can only pick one of these.
Was it saying 3 to 4 of them you got to pick? Like maybe as a flex or something?
Which 3-4? Okay, so you read it that way. I read it as this is his linebacker 3-4. Or which 3-4 linebackers do you keep?
Well, maybe let's just put them in order and then.
Okay. All right. For me, it's like a 1A and 1B between Dodson and Cashman right now.
Yep.
Dodson wearing the green dot in Seattle, playing that Bobby Wagner role. I think he's going to have a huge breakout season. Cashman, same kind of deal in Minnesota. He's in that Brian Flores defense. We've seen and heard that he's the green dot guy. He's not coming off the field. We saw it in preseason. He played 100% of snaps. Pace was coming off. So those are my 1A and 1B players. I already confessed my love for Britt. Then it's probably going to be Jewell in Carolina. He got reunited with the defensive coordinator, Everos, that went from Denver, is now the defensive coordinator in Carolina. So there's some continuity and familiarity there. And then I think White, if that's Devin White, it's a huge question mark, just as far as what is he going to be on the same team this time next week? It just kind of, is he going to get another ankle injury? So we don't know. So that would be my ranking. Dodson, Cashman, Britt, Jewell, White.
Nailed it. There's nothing I would disagree with. I did miss some of what you're saying. Sleeper just broke the news that Tyreek Hill was arrested walking into the stadium today for a driving violation. Apparently his agent said he will still play. So I know we're the IDP show, but like that's just too crazy a news for me to not to share right there. Yeah, I mean,
Did
yeah,
Scheckers text you that? Did Schecker directly text you that? Are you guys on
yeah, right.
in the chat group?
Uh, no, so Cashman, Dotson locked in ones there. Yeah, then Britt. You know, then yeah, definitely Jewel White, same thing there as well. You know, if we have to, if we're looking for just one between Cashman, Dotson, I'd probably lean Cashman just slightly over Dotson for me.
Yeah.
But we get splitting hairs there. So
Do you think Tyreek Hill is avoiding child support payments, or what do you think the deal was there?
yeah, right. It's baby mama. One of his baby mamas, or all 13 of them,
One
are
of
like
the
chasing him. Like,
yeah, they're all lined up. Can we discuss the Dallas linebackers? He owns Bell in one and Overshown in another. Are you expecting any of these to be LB 30 or higher by the end of the season? Looking at it right now, I think Hendricks is probably a safe LB2 for the season. Just coming in, he's got familiarity with the Zimmer defense. He played with him in Minnesota. I think that there is some connection there. Not as efficient of a linebacker as he probably was a couple of years ago. I think that's probably why Minnesota let him go and he went and played for the Chargers for a season or two. But I still think that familiarity with the defense is going to let him be the LB1, quote unquote, to be there in Dallas. And then you just kind of have to pick your guy, I think, is the other two. Bell has shown that he's been the second linebacker there, but a new coaching staff comes in. Overshown was a draft pick last year. He got hurt, unfortunately. Both of them had camp reviews all of camp, and I think this is one of those things like just kind of see how the first 2 weeks play out, and then if you have one and the other one's playing, you just created a roster spot for yourself. But I don't think there's anything definitive right now on my end that says it's going to be Bell, it's going to be Overshown. My approach all season was let draft the second one, whoever took, like in a best ball draft or whatever kind of draft. If someone took Overshown, I was more than happy to take Bell. If someone took Bell a few rounds later, I was more than happy to take Overshown. I just wanted a piece of that just in case it hit, but I wasn't investing a lot in those picks. So like if I was drafting them as my LB5, LB6 and week 2, week 3 rolls around and they're not producing, like I'm not out. So.
Yep. Nope. I think you spoke on it beautifully. The big thing for me is right. Mike Zimmer hasn't been calling a defense for a few years now. Does he fall back into the tropes of what he always did? Hard nosed, grinded out 90s football type, linebacker considerations. Is he like, hey, I got to adjust with the times. So now he's, rolling out maybe some different looks. So and I don't have enough insight and digging into what the Cowboys plan on doing to speak really intelligently on that beyond, that I'm uncertain. The only thing, if in a vacuum, you got to pick between one or the other. Cause I think how you said it is perfect, Jeff, right? Like let the value fall to you. But if you're looking at waiver wires right now, let's say, or somehow you have both for whatever reason, to me, I lean slightly Bell if it's the right platform, because you look at something like Sleeper where he's got dual designation. If he's getting 75%, snaps, but it's pretty much all at second linebacker and he has a defensive back designation, great, or he's designated as a safety on your platform or something, great. Like I think that's where you're going to see potential more roster value. But in terms of, is one of these guys going to be a top 30 linebacker by season's end? I don't see the path outside of pure volume, and just falling into the tackles, because right now I'm nervous that the alignment and utilization, they'll just kind of cannibalize each other.
And we talked about a lot of changes on defense between, players and new faces and everything like that. But Dallas is low-key probably gone through the most change from one year to the next. Dan Quinn's not there. He was a huge 3 safety guy. And like you bring in Zimmer and like you said, who is more traditional, like, are we going to see like, the traditional 3-4, 4-3, always on their kind of defense. So it'll be really interesting. It'll be telling, I think, the first 2 weeks to we'll have a much better idea, middle of September. So. Kind of going back to JP's question, I kind of scrolling down here. He did have a couple of comments here, which 3 or 4 to keep. And I think that's kind of where we fell on with those rankings. If you have to get rid of one, Devin White's probably the easiest one to get rid of there. Not the other 4, I think, are going to be pretty outstanding linebackers for you all season long. So,
but I wouldn't be upset if Jewel was off my roster either, right? Like, I mean, if you have value elsewhere, you just need to do something else. Like, Jewel
Yes.
is a solid LB4 there for you, 100%. But if you really got to get down to 3.
Yes. Yep. Great point. Dorian Williams. Curious about him. I'll let you answer first, Jake, just because I've been taking a lot of the lead, and then you're making me look good. So,
dude, there's 200 people here. They ain't here for me. Dorian Williams.
Mike's on after us. That's why.
Yeah, right. Just getting.
But yeah, kind of with the Buffalo Bills, they're another team that kind of went through a lot of changes this year. Matt Milano got hurt again, so that kind of opened the door once again for Dorian Williams to kind of step in. So, Jake, thoughts on Dorian Williams?
Yeah, Dorian Williams is, it's Williams or Anderson. That's the big question, right? Who's going to be the one coming up? Joe Anderson kind of came out of nowhere here with the injury and really stepped up in preseason. Dorian Williams obviously has the experience in the defense. He got opportunities at time last year, but then we also saw him get yanked in the middle of, drives, middle of games. So to me, that leaves a little bit of concern, right? That coaching staff's short leash. I mean, I know he was a rookie, but sometimes you like to let him try and play through those things a little bit if you have the opportunity to. So my gut tells me Williams is the guy that you want to lean into right now if you have to make a decision. Joe Anderson is a great stash if you have a deep enough roster spot to do it. LB2 in Buffalo has had value. I don't know that I'm not confident he's going to be an 85+% snap guy week 1. So if we're just talking stashes here, I like Williams. I like Anderson. If we're talking about trying to get one of these guys into our lineup this week, I don't want to. I would look elsewhere if at all possible.
Yeah. The answer is Taylor Rapp. The answer is always Taylor Rapp.
This is true. The true Tay of our hearts.
Right. Javon Holland or Grant Delpit? Delpit for me. I just think he plays a better, more consistent role in that offense, like Jake alluded to earlier. If you need a big play, need to swing for a home run, Holland might be your guy, but I think Delpit is just kind of a safer floor, especially with kind of like Hicks being kind of banged up with a mysterious injury during the season or preseason. We could see Delpit probably playing a little bit more, maybe down in the box, kind of maybe getting some cheaper tackles, cheaper in a good way. Start one, TJ Mosley, Levante David, or Spillane. Oh, this is tough. If I'm taking one away, I'm probably taking Spillane away. It's hard not to start Mosley every week. I think he's going to have to be your guy. David is probably a close second for me, but Mosley is just too consistent. And I think playing against San Francisco, they're going to run the ball a lot. He's going to be there. So.
Yeah, I'm blanking here. The Bucks, who do they have this week? They got the Commanders. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's between David and Mosley. I think matchup wise, I just lean slightly Mosley. I mean, we're talking. I don't know much about hairs, but if I had them and I was splitting them, it would be Mosley by a fine line.
Drew, you guys are bringing IDP, and we love it. We love you, Drew, for the shout out. Thanks for being here this morning with us. Jake, this is a you question. Playing RSO leagues in an IDP 1-2-3 league, 14 teams. Is there a different way to pick starters in that format?
Pick starters. I'm drawing a solid blank here on kind of what the question means. I play an RSO a ton. I write IDP content for them. Yeah, I guess Drew, if you could elaborate maybe a little further. I'm so sorry. I call it brain farts here on Sunday morning. I'm not 100% sure what you're asking.
Or Jake, if he wants to, you could definitely probably reach out to you on Twitter at LateRoundDB. Yeah. So.
Yeah. My DMs are open, so yeah, feel free to shoot me a question because I'm not picking it up here. Sorry.
Yeah, picking up what we're putting down. Sorry, Drew. Oh, this is kind of a humble brag post that Larry was able to start balling in 2 of your leagues. So, yeah. Jake,
enjoy your W this week.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I have Bond and Nixon on my bench. My bench is off to a whopping 50-point start before anyone else has even played for my team. So feeling great about that.
That's huge in your bench scoring league. So nice job. Woo! Brian Burns, Jonathan Grenard.
It's Burns for me. And it's not because I think Grenard's bad. As a Texans fan, loved having Grenard and everything he did there. He's been an efficiency king though, and so I question when you change, teams, schemes, teammates. Can efficiency kings keep doing that? If he starts off the year hot like that, he could just be an outlier guy where, we got to numbers be damned. This is what this guy does. He makes his hay and he makes it well. So, but that said, I love that Brian Burns has Dexter Lawrence with him. I know Kayvon Thibodeau is kind of, back and forth for a lot of people in the IDP space this offseason. Is he the real deal? Is he not? Whatever. Regardless, it's at least another decent talent opposite of him. And Burns is a strong talent himself. So I lean there, just because I like what he's got in terms of teammates along that front. And I think he'll just find a way to get it done this week more than Grenard will.
I'm with you. Yep. I think having Dexter Lawrence in there in the middle, having Thibodeau drawing a little attention away is probably the best defensive line that Burns has played with. And I think that he now gets a chance to get a little attention drawn away from him. I know that Derek Brown played pretty well last season for Carolina, but I think Dexter Lawrence is just a different level of player. And then having Thibodeau opposite, regardless of your thoughts on him, he's still going to draw a little bit of attention away. So I think that that's going to help him out as well. So Burns for me. Drew says, thanks for the explanation on the Cowboys. Was just curious on how the market views them. Yeah, and that's we kind of alluded to. I think they're LB5, LB6s right now. You just kind of throw a dart and maybe it sticks. And that's the return on investment. You're not looking at, they're not counted on weekly starters. And, that's why we take those dart throws and hope to hit.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to jump to the bottom. We did get a super chat. So Jeff G coming in, looking for some help at linebacker.
A super chat. What's that? Good morning, Patrick Queen or EJ Speed. Thanks. Great name. So we're going to start with that so that I get you a super chat. For me, I think Speed is low-key being hated on. I think his production over the last 6 games in Indy, if you go back and look at the numbers, him and Franklin play really well together. They complement each other really well on that defense. I'm not a Queen hater, but I'm more of a Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker hater just because we haven't seen the production from that position probably since, Reagan was in office. And so I'm going Speed. It's probably not like the obvious or the popular choice, but I think Speed is going to have a great season and a great week. So Jake, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm with you too, right? I think to me it is very close, right? We saw Queen, what he can do with the Ravens defense over the last 4 years. He can be a big tackler. He can pile us up. He can make some splash plays and pass, and behind the line of scrimmage. But for me, this is something where EJ Speed has just shown that he is a high level tackler consistently while playing alongside another high level tackler. I think that the matchup between the Texans and the Colts is going to be one where, I believe and also hope that the Texans offense is running a lot of plays, whether that's to match Shane Steichen's pace of play as well as the success of the Texans offense moving the ball. So, our good friend John Macri talks about it a ton, that the Steelers are one of those teams that play a ton of man defense. And in that is not ideal for our linebackers, right? Linebackers are better at reading and reacting and going downhill, not chasing from behind. So, that said, for me, it's 65-35. I would lean Speed over Queen, but hey, if you got a strong affinity for Queen, or you just feel it in this matchup against the Falcons, I guess I could see the argument, but yeah, I think we're both pretty easily Speed here at this point.
And it'll be easy to sit here at 3:00 and break this one down because, Atlanta has, Bijan Robinson, quarterback questions in Pittsburgh right now. Atlanta is winning. They're salting the game away. We see Bijan Robinson running a lot, soaking up those late fourth quarter tackles. But right now, as we sit here at like 10:00 Central Time, Speed's my guy. I think He's been one of those players underrated last couple of games of the season last year. He's definitely been an ascending linebacker for me and for others. So thanks for the super shout out. Let's go back up here to Lou 32. Superflex IDP pick 3 at the defensive spot. Winfield, Singleton, Bernard, Derwin James, or White. I don't know who the White is. Keion White. Devin White's already gone.
I mean, the fact that we can't figure out what White it is probably tells us where he should fall on the list. Go ahead.
The one I'm not gonna play is probably Bernard. I'm probably gonna play Singleton for sure, Winfield for sure, and then it comes down to Derwin James or Bernard. I'm gonna lean towards James. I just think in that defense he's gonna have to play. So, and then Jake is gonna say Bernard because he plays linebacker. And
no, I'm kind of a Derwin stan myself, right? And so,
okay.
Some of the chatter has been that and Harbaugh is going to use him back inside the box more than what we saw even last year. Kind of what we saw towards the first few years. So it's again, it's a little bit of speculation. I know we tried to say lean away from that. So I think Winfield and Singleton are in for sure, and then Bernard James is a bit of a split there. But I just love the big play upside of James. And so, if you have the consistency locked in with Singleton and even Winfield to an extent, just what he's shown us over this first 4 years, I'm comfortable injecting a little bit of volatility into my lineup with Derwin, especially the upside he can bring.
And the other thing with James too is there's so many questions about their linebackers in front of them. If you have 3 linebackers, you might not have any. Between Colson, between Perryman, between Henley. So there's some question marks there. The one thing you don't have to worry about in San Diego or LA now is it's Derwin James. So replaced Ivan Pace with Dodson in my lineup this week. Thoughts? I also have JOK or KJ Britt. Dodson's my highest ranked of those 4. I think that's a great call to replace Pace with Dodson this week in your lineup.
Yeah. Sorry, Lou. Well, we should jump back to Lou here because he made a good update to that. I'd probably lean KJ Britt.
Over Dodson?
It'd be close. Seattle. So right. The fun part of IDP, for those who don't know, right, is home teams have their own statisticians, and they track everything for scoring for NFL purposes. And then they provide it. It's like the dad who comes out of the stands to write the books for the Little League game. But that's what they do. And Seattle it's known and historically has had one of the most friendly tackle counting home stat teams ever. So is it in Seattle? If it's in Seattle, I'd lean Dodson. In such a weird way to make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I do think I lean Dodson then over Britt actually. So
KJ Britt or Troy Anderson season long?
Britt.
KJ Britt for me.
Yeah, and just too much ambiguity. Yep.
100%.
Do you want to circle back? Lou 32.
He said Keiser White was the player, right?
Yes. So actually, I think I would go Keiser White over Derwin. I think that I love what he's going to do in that defense. So sorry, Lou, to not make that connection here on our end.
Yep. Yeah. And Jason even called us out on it. Thanks, Jason, for helping us out.
Enjoy special guest next week, Jason Spira, because he can get these calls right, unlike us.
Make sure you drop your DM. We'll get you. This is fun. Appreciate all pick 2 this week. All right, rest of the season, balance scoring: Terrell Dodson, Jordan Brooks, Jack Campbell, or Logan Wilson. Kind of depends on if you want to answer with my heart or my head. My heart or my head, right?
Yeah.
My head is telling me Terrell Dodson and Logan Wilson.
Oh.
My heart is telling me Terrell Dodson and Jack Campbell, but.
Oh well, we're locked in on Dodson, right? You and me were there. We're set. We're good.
Okay.
I like Brooks Campbell above Wilson pretty easily in my heart, and that's I don't know. Campbell's like, I'm afraid to put Campbell up there because I'm such a believer and I want to see so much, right? He's in the mic role, wearing the dot this year, should be on the field 100%. So what can you really do with that? All the chatter is, well, Anzalone can do way more now in this will position. That's where he has more freedom to make plays and so on and so forth. So I think Campbell falls to 3 for me. Brooks, after coming back, what he did from his injury and still showing the level of efficiency he did. Again, I know new system. Logan Wilson's more consistent. Rest of season, I still like I like Brooks better. And that's just more of his historical efficiency. So Dotson easily locked in for us. I want Campbell at 2, but I'll go Brooks.
My heart is telling me Campbell.
Right.
My shares of Campbell are telling me Campbell. But too, with Logan Wilson, just been super consistent, and
he has. But he's also, I feel like his ceiling is limited too, though, right? So
true, yeah.
when it comes down to it, like, yes, he's had 1 or 2 splash games, especially I feel like in his first couple of years. But years 3 and 4 here, he's just kind of settled in. He's a steady Eddie. He should be in lineups, definitely. I think deep enough lineups, 2, 3 linebackers deep. But gosh, I don't know. Yeah, let's just Dodson Campbell. That's what I want, baby, and that's what I'm going to call right here.
So Jake and I play in a softball team together. I'm the singles guy. I just get on base. Jake is always that guy swinging from his shoes, trying to be the home run hit guy. So that's
the guy who falls over as I miss, like onto the plate.
He's here. Hold my beer. I'm gonna go hit.
I had too many. He hasn't had any.
Start 1 linebacker: Bernard or Levante David.
David.
I think David's a easy call here. Super consistent player. Question marks around Bernard, like being in Buffalo. Just as far as like, there's so many questions at the linebackers position in Buffalo. Not really sure there, but there's 0 question marks with David. Proven track record. Tech and high on a flex: Thomas Jr., Shaheed, or McConkey on the offensive side.
I think I lean.
I almost want to take a stab. I almost want to take a stab at the rookie and hit that deep ball. I thought Shaheed picked up like a heel injury or something earlier this week, or was kind of dinged up with a foot something.
He had something that he's battling through the preseason. Yeah, I think he's still I think he's on the report for it, but I mean, he should be a relative full go. So, I mean, I guess we'll find out more here as we get to the 10:30 time, right, with all the actives and inactives for the noon games.
Jake, we're over 300. We're in Sparta right now, so that's where we're rolling.
Nice.
Oh, sorry, I messed up. Oh no, we are happy to show off our many talents and be able to pivot at a moment's notice. Jake is dropping knowledge from Schefter that he just got texted about Tyreek Hill. We are all encompassing. We are here for you. So, Drew, I think Queen will get access to more tackles with Bijan. I play the tackle 4. Yep, and we kind of did mention. I don't think much of Queen after chasing Holcomb last year. So, yeah, we kind of alluded to those kind of ideas as well. So, Kaiser White. Dotson getting love. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
RSO contracts we're talking about there, Drew. My man.
That late round DB. Make sure you hit him up. I can start a 3rd linebacker with Troy Reeder or a 3rd defensive line with Derek Brown. Who are you starting? I almost think you have to go Brown just because we have no idea what LA is going to look like. If you look at like Underdog or any of the betting sites, Reeder's not even an option. I mean, it's one of those situations where, like, do they know something that we don't? And Roseboom's the guy that's getting the options for betting. So I don't know if that's a narrative you want to play in. I almost got to go Brown here just for.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum you go Brown. If you're like, hey, I want to a little more upside, just because I think a Reeder could pile up 10 tackles. I guess I can see it a little bit, but I mean, you're talking about Derek Brown. I mean, the guy netted 100+ total tackles last season from the interior of that defensive line, and they didn't exactly do a whole lot to get stronger along that front. So maybe he sees more double, triple teams consistently because of it. I don't know, but I think the likely scenario is just more of what we saw last year, especially early on here in that defense. So I would go Derek Brown if I think in that situation pretty easily. Yeah.
30 seconds, Jake. Break down your LA Rams. What do you see? Linebackers.
I see me standing on the sideline watching because I'm not jumping into that game if I don't have to. If you're forced to, Roseboom's been there and playing consistently with him last season. Was more in that weak side role at 70-75%. Reader's the vet, right? He's been doing it for years. He always finds a way to sneak into lineups and stink up our IDP considerations. So you have that for sure. And then obviously Spates is like the big name. That I think a lot of dynasty people have been really touting to be the long-term value there. So, you're twisting my arm. You're making me make a decision. I'm going Roseboom just because, again, it's a known.
Yep.
I think the worst case scenario is he ends up being the second linebacker again and playing 75% of snaps, and he gives you 5 tackles, right? That's way better than putting in Reader and all of a sudden Roseboom's the guy and they're rolling out Spates, they're rolling out Hummel. Like next thing you know, you're taking a goose egg in week 1. I'm not willing to do that. And if I can avoid that whole room at this current time, I'm doing that first and foremost.
100%. Morning, fellas. IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. Need to start 1 linebacker, 1 defensive line, 1 D-back, and 1 flex in a 32-man league. Options are Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker. Let's go position by position. Let's go that way. Yep. Thibodeau or Trayvon Walker.
Well, or Zaven Collins, I'm thinking too, because Collins is an edge technically.
Or Zaven. Okay, yeah. Good call.
That's a tough one.
I almost feel like the floor is there with Xavier Collins, but the upside is Thibodeau. Walker would be my 3rd choice, I think.
Oh, see, Traven would actually. I think I like him because I think he'll volume his way to relevancy. In terms of a floor, I think Thibodeau is someone who will probably be your better upside play, which is also disheartening too because he was like an 850, 900 snap guy last year, and his tackle floor was really poor. So, that's a tough one. But hey, 32 teams, this is what you get. I'd probably go right in order. Thibs, Trayvon, Zaven would be my choices there.
Okay. Linebacker, we've got Dorian Williams
or Mac Wilson. So you're looking at 2 LB2s again. I'd probably go Mac personally. I think there's more known that he's going to be 75% for them. And if the Bills are a true run heavy game script like we saw with Joe Brady in the second half last year, that just feels better to me than Dorian at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I've been kind of a Mac Wilson truther, trying to sneak him in the last part of drafts and things like that too. I think he's got a higher upside, and he might be the only healthy Cardinals linebacker by the end of the season. We saw them just get decimated last year in that linebacker room. So
yeah.
And then at D-back, we got Jordan Battle, Grant Delpit, or Kenyon Martin. Delpit pretty easy for me in this one.
Yeah. So then I think after that, then of all those leftovers, right, who are we putting into our flex?
I think the scoring kind of plays into it. IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. So I'm going to want to try to get in that extra defensive lineman here. And so maybe it's that, Walker, Thibodeau, Mac Wilson, Grant Delpit lineup.
Yeah, I agree. You got to go with the other linemen, especially because, like I said, with a Trayvon and Thibodeau and probably even Zaven too at this point, like there's not a lot of depth in a lot of those rotations there potentially for all 3 of those teams. That those guys that you got listed there are probably going to see a ton. So really, it comes down to whoever you feel is your second DB, right? So, I'd go Thibs, Trayvon as my 2 D linemen. You were saying Thibs and Zaven.
Yep.
So get Thibs in there for sure, and then I guess we should trust Jeff more because WWJD. What would Jeff do? So let's get Zaven in that IDP flex spot.
I've got those bracelets. Who would Jeff draft? That's the new ones. my marketing team is on it. So another defensive tackle question. We got Sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence, or Derek Brown. Love the show.
I'm a Derek Brown truther. And I was in on him, for the last couple of years. And so having him pop off at the big season last year is great. To me, this comes down to scoring. Oh, and he says standard scoring, right? So, I mean, now if you're getting a great, set of scoring for tackles, I'd probably lean Derek Brown. I just think he's gonna keep piling them up this year. And there's a lot of mouths to feed on that defensive front for the Giants. Who knows? It could be a Thibs week, right? Could be a Burns week, but I think Lawrence is still a great play. I lean Derek Brown slightly, just for the consistency.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And week 2, week 3, we'll have a little more data to go on. We'll see how things are kind of laying out. Carolina, like you said, Jake, does not have anyone on that defensive line. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney is there. They get brought in DJ Wynnum, but he's out for the first 4 weeks. So it's a barren wasteland. So teams could easily double or triple team Brown. And so he could pretty much be negated on that defensive line. So it'll just kind of be interesting to see how those first couple weeks play out. And like you said, you're rolling a dice. Is it a Dexter Lawrence week? Is it a Thibodeau week? Is it a Burns week? So kind of going that way. Drew is mentioning that Montez Sweat is questionable. I don't know, Jake, did Schefter text you anything about Montez Sweat at all?
Nope, just the Dak 4-year, $240 million extension. I haven't seen enough in the Bears news that leads me to believe that this is going to greatly impact his playing time. So, I mean, I'm starting Sweat with full confidence at this point.
Yeah, see anything there either. Tekken, thanks for following back up for your offensive question. We are happy to answer any and all questions. So getting here towards the end here, everyone, we appreciate you sticking on. This is like all of a sudden we're at 90 minutes and the time has been flying by. This has been a lot of fun this morning. So I really appreciate everyone being on. Brad's asking Flex, Love, Damone Clark, Diane Henley, or strike up the band because that sweet chin music is back. I think it's got to be Chin, right?
He's the one who in preseason, and we know what Dan Quinn loves to do with three safeties in terms of getting one of them, in that basically that linebacker alignment.
If you're not a risk taker, I'm in on Love. He's safe.
Yeah, I like what they've done with Chin, but yeah, to me it's Julian Love, Jeremy Chin, Diane Henley, Damone Clark, right? Like, yep. and the last two are because we don't know what that rotation of linebackers are like. I mean, heck, there was chatter I think earlier this week that the Chargers were looking at like we're going to rotate our linebackers just constantly because we want them to be fresh. And so, I mean, if you're truly talking about now, you're looking at 60-70% of snap for all of your linebackers in Los Angeles. I mean, I'm staying away from that unless I absolutely need to.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like you said, we mentioned earlier about chasing points, needing points, or a safe single. If you need like that, just safe points, Love is definitely the guy. But if you're needing to make up a lot of ground, maybe Chin's your home run, Jake Kohlhagen coming up to bat kind of guy. So a couple more here. JJ, love the show, guys. Thanks for keeping it up. It's been fun. This is we do this because we love to do it. It's so much fun. I enjoy it a lot. So
I enjoy you. So I mean, that's why I'm here.
Aw. Make me cry on TV. I'm thinking this is Danny Brown from wide receiver
for the Commanders.
Is he going to be Luke McCaffrey? Is he going to be the guy? Zemeckis, is he going to be on the outside with Scary Terry? I think maybe a deep dynasty or a deep roster stash right now, but if you have to roll him out, I'm thinking your team is looking at the 101 next year.
Yeah, right. Like I liked what we saw from utilization with him last year. Like he got plenty of high value targets down the field. But again, this whole new team, right? Whole new offensive head coach, offensive coordinator, new quarterback. I think he's definitely worth a stash. I'm down with that. I think you keep him because same thing. You want to let this play out, right? Yeah, McCaffrey was 3rd round draft capital, but he's just a valuable slot player, right? Is that where they see him more? Do they see him coming in? McCaffrey's the one who stays on in 2 wide receiver sets because they're just like, let's build up this young guy. They really like what they got, So we don't want to be playing Brown this year or this week, excuse me. But he's definitely worth a roster consideration because if he's the number 2 in that offense, we've seen what Jaden Daniels can do attacking downfield. there's potential that he's a fun boom bust type play for us as a bye week fill in too at some point this year.
Yep. And Drew followed up, just because they traded Dodson away, is that because what they saw in Dodson, or maybe what they saw in Brown, or what they saw in McCaffrey? And for me, it comes down to who's available, whose roster spot is he taking up? Is he taking up a roster spot of someone that might potentially have more upside down the road, or is he a player on my roster that I might have to start this season? So it just kind of comes down to opportunity cost for me when I look at, rostering players like a Brown. I'm going to give him 2 or 3 weeks to see what I get. I'm going to get a pretty good idea and kind of go from there. So Loris 20 asks, picks Jewel, Cashman, or Speed? Pick 2. Tackle heavy. Love the show, guys. Keep it up. Pretty easy for me. It's going to be the last 2 with Cashman and Speed.
Yep, 100% with you.
Okay. RSO need 2 defensive tackle, 2.5 points per tackle, 7 points per sack between Osei, and I think that's OSA.
That's how it normally is.
Yeah. All these players are changing their names anyway, so we don't know. Jake, you're an RSO. Well, who are you thinking? Kind of some heavy tackle scoring with the 2.5 points per tackle, and then the 7 for a sack. I'm kind of leaning Breece here, just with the unknown in New Orleans right now. They kind of turned over their defensive line a little bit this offseason. I'm liking him as a second-year breakout myself. So,
yep, I'm with you too. I think Osei Odighizuwa is a great roster and a great play at times. I'm with you. I'm excited that, I think now that they have, I know Chase Young's been kind of maligned in the early part of his career here, but between him, Cam Jordan, and Carl Granderson, they actually have a really solid rotation for NFL purposes, I think. And I think that allows, Brissett to really operate well in the middle. And he's shown he can be an absolute game wrecker, his time in college. I know he had a late injury, knee injury. So I think, I'm believing that we didn't see everything his rookie year in terms of what he could do. Now you give another off season to build up experience and time in the NFL. I think he has a great year this year. So I'm excited to start Brian Brissett in a lot of DT required leagues.
Yeah, and that scoring is fantastic. 2.5 for a tackle and 7 for a sack. That's game changing right there. So amazing things.
Jamar Chase is active. He's playing. T. Higgins is out. Sorry. Because I got my Jamar Chase on. I had to call it out when I saw it.
You can put your candles out now, Jake, so you can save them for. Oh, there we go. Yep.
Look at that. You made him feel bad by calling out the spelling error. This is Jeff's teacher showing right here. Like he's
first week back. That's what we're worried about. That's
took his red pen. He crossed it out. See me after class.
I do not use a red pen just because I had a 3rd grade teacher that just destroyed me with red pen. So that I promised myself I would never do that to any of my students. Yeah. My therapist says we're getting over it, but we're good. So, all right, a couple left here. Do I trade Devin White for a 27th third? I'm stacked at linebacker and would rather have the roster spot. That pick is a long ways away. I don't mind the trade, but I almost feel like you probably could do a little bit better than a 27th third. Again, not knowing the league, things like that. I'm always for trading defensive pieces away, but I almost feel like you can get a little better than a 27th third. Jake, thoughts?
I slightly disagree here. I'm very nervous that Devin White might be just on the path to irrelevance here too. And so cashing out at any point here might be the safe play. So I guess, right. So we talk about, are you looking for upside? Are you trying to biggest bang for your buck? You just want something. So, I mean, right now, a third is a third, right? Like, I mean, we could be talking about Devin White is struggling to find the field here by next season. And at that point, no one's paying you anything for him, right? He's a roster clogger completely at that point. So I'm following the narrative that I think White has personnel issues where he's going and where he's been. So I would sell. But that's only because linebacker is such a fungible position when it comes to, what happens week to week in the waiver wires, right? Like next thing you know, Divine Diablo's out again in Oakland. Wow, they're Las Vegas. Now Luke Masterson's a thing again, right? Well, no one's got Luke Masterson on their team, except in the most dirtiest, degenerative leagues. And there you go. You've now got a guy who's relevant to be able to replace that. So I'm more confident in my ability to replace that and get any value I can for a guy who I have great concerns is going to hold no value a year from now.
And maybe J.K. Kelly, what you could do is probably put Devin White on the trade block or say that he's available in your league, and maybe that might draw up a little more interest, and maybe you get a little bit better pick for him. But that's just like the dynasty salesman in me that would try to do that. So
yeah, and this is one of my favorite things to do, just strategy wise, like package another pick with it then, right? Like maybe you can be like, hey, I'll do it, if with a 27 fourth back, but now I want to see this up to a second, right? Like that, because now if you're talking any second at any point in time for any, a fringe linebacker, like now you're really making money in the stock market.
Yep. Yeah, and sell that narrative that it's a pick like 3 years away. Like that kid's still in high school right now that you're going to be drafting. So I saw him playing Friday night. So
right.
Got another super chat here. Appreciate that. TJ Dio looking at Jelani Phillips or Josh Hines Allen. I like the healthy player in this one. I love Phillips as a player. I've got him in many, many leagues. I'm hoping that I'm wrong in this and Phillips just blows up this week, but I'm going to take the healthy play. Achilles are no joke. That's a tough injury to come back from. And Phillips has had all the right things said about him. Training camp's been awesome. He's got the explosiveness back, but when you're in the pads on Sundays, it's a little bit different story than on the week. So I'm taking Hines Allen here. So
Bradley Chubb's still coming back from injury. They lost Christian Wilkins over the offseason. I can't say with a high level of confidence that the defensive front is the same that it was when they were really firing at all cylinders mid-season before his injury. I'm with you. I love Phillips. I got plenty of shares. I got the Jalen Phillips helmet right here. Like I'm a believer. But week one, what we know and most importantly what we don't know, this has got to be Josh Hines Allen for me pretty easily.
Yeah, appreciate the shout out there. So running back question: need a third running back, Tyler Algier or Jordan Mason? If this was last year, I would have easily said Tyler Algier,
right?
Just because of the usage that he got. This year's a little more questionable, and I know that Mason plays on Monday night, so it's a little bit tougher. So you probably have to make that decision now, especially with Algier having a kickoff here in about an hour and 20 minutes. So I feel it's probably still Algier this week, just because I think that Atlanta is going to be ahead in this game versus Pittsburgh. I think with the quarterback issues that Pittsburgh's having right now with I think that they're trying to salt the game away. So I see a lot of Bijan. I see a lot of Algier running this game. So
yeah, I mean, this is the dirtiest of dirty questions, and this is the kind of stuff I like. So
Jake likes it dirty.
Right? I'm a dirty boy. I mean, I get it though, right?
Jordan just got canceled. That's awesome.
I mean, I get it though. CMC's dealing with a calf injury, right? Like they just paid him. Do you really want a soft tissue injury that's going to linger? So does he go from 80% touches down to 60%? And Mason is obviously the next guy up to fill that void. So I think to me though, we saw Algier be 1,000-yard back in his own right, right? We've never seen Jordan Mason do that. Maybe he could have given the chance, but again, playing in the knowns versus unknowns here, speculating a ton. I think Algier is probably who I would lean ever so slightly. I mean, I'm talking like 55-45 confidence here. And the Jets defense is no joke too. So that could be a long slog of a game where really there's not a ton of efficiency. And I think Algier. It's Algier for me.
Yeah, and McCaffrey's been kind of trending in the right direction. They said he was going to play a full complement of snaps. So that makes me feel a little more scaled back on Mason than I was probably Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. There was some speculation Mason might be the start this week. So we'll kind of see how that goes. So best of luck to you this week, JJ. You rock. We got pick 2, Keisean Jones, Javante, or Swift. I'm thinking Aaron Jones.
Yeah. Those all look like running backs, so I would agree.
Yeah. Achan for sure.
Yep.
And then for me, it comes down to Jones or Swift. I think Jaleel McLaughlin steals enough PPR points away from the reception part for Javante to kind of put him down for me a little bit. I don't expect a lot out of that Denver offense this season, and playing in Seattle, I think that's a really tough place to play. So for me, it's between Jones and Swift. Have we heard anything about Keenan Allen in or out this morning yet?
It's 10:30, so we should have that for him. My guess is he's in. Everything seemed really positive to start. So yeah, so to me it's Swift. I like Jones too. I mean, when you're looking at Jones and Swift, you're really seeing a lot of the same things. I think Jones just showing a little bit more in terms of running between the tackles and Swift. But you're talking about two players who great hands, can really make things happen in the passing game, have big play ability. Swift's just a little bit on the younger side. I get Herbert and Roshan are there too, but I've actually feared Tide Chandler a bit more than I fear those two in terms of Jones. So to me, it's Achan, like you said, easily. Then I'd go Swift.
And I'm with you. I think that Swift is on a better offense. With JJ McCarthy, we've kind of seen what Sam Darnold has done in the past. It's kind of pretty meat and potato kind of offense. So I'm not expecting a huge explosion with that. So I'm going to lean Swift in a better offense. I think he maybe gets a little more opportunity there. So,
yep.
All right. Taysom Hill or Jonnu Smith?
That's Taysom Hill, like hands down for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, yeah, they didn't do anything at running back. They're inside the 5. Goodbye Kamara. Hello Taysom Hill.
Yeah, and goodbye Derek Carr.
Please.
Yeah. DJ Kelly, thanks. No, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome back, fellas. Drop Bond on Wednesday in Dynasty. I'm still saying this is a safe place, Malik. It's okay. There's a chance maybe we get back. Should I start Hicks or Speed? Full speed ahead for me. Yep. So then 2 of Hubbard, Latu, Yaya, Diaby, or Phillips.
I think you go Yaya 1 almost, right? Because
that was the name that stuck out.
He's going to get a full complement of snaps.
Then the question for me would be between Phillips and Hubbard. Then,
yeah, I like Hubbard because he's always had a great tackle floor, but he's dealt with enough injuries this preseason already. And they got Miles Murphy, they got Joseph Osai. Like they've invested into these players. Like they have a good rotation that I almost think that they
Murphy's
keep him
on IR, so that's not going to be an issue.
Oh, that's right. The knee injury. I forgot. I guess I go Hubbard. It's not much, but Yaya's a lock. Hubbard slightly over Phillips. God, even Latu.
And here again, Brad, this might be, and I know we've said it multiple times this morning about what do you need? You need a safe floor. You go Hubbard. If you're chasing points, if you need somebody, then Phillips might be your upside play there. Because Hubbard and Phillips are so close for Jake and I think that's where we're going to kind of lean. So yeah, for sure. But then if you need safe points, go Hubbard. If you want to hit a home run, be the hero like Jake, go Phillips. Zach Allen or AJ Epinesa?
Ooh.
I am a huge Zach Allen fan, but he's been playing a lot of interior defense where I think Epinesa might get a little more run on the outside. I'm almost going to lean Epinesa this week.
Yeah, and then this is where I'm hoping that, again, my biases aren't showing through here because I was a big AJE fan when he came out of Iowa. I really thought he'd do a lot with Buffalo. He really struggled to get into that rotation in his first couple of years. But last year, I mean, he really made some splash weeks, some big weeks, and I think he showed what he's capable of. I think he's higher up in that rotation now this week. And so same thing, right? Like I like his volatility. If your lineup can survive taking a 2-point week because he just throws you a couple tackles or something or whatever, or a quarterback hit, I'd go Epinesa all day then. if you need more consistency, a little bit more consistency, right? Like you're just like, I just need my 5 or 7, however your scoring lays out, right? I would lean Allen slightly then at that point, but I like AJ quite a bit this week.
Yeah, and you may, as you're going through your monologue there, Jake, I was kind of thinking like Zach Allen, like that might be that, Seattle probably is going to be maybe winning this game. They're going to be running the clock out late. So if you're kind of good at predicting game script, Zach Allen might get those couple late tackles in the game. Fourth quarters are kind of salt the game away there. So thank you. Chris is curious about RSO. He's got Carr on a 3-year deal, $22 million a year. Trade for a future pick. He has Burrow and Lamar already in a Superflex IDP league with 14 man. So, depends on what the pick.
I don't even know that it depends, man. You get out from that kind of contract. I sincerely question whether Carr's the quarterback by season's end. I truly do. And
is that quarterback on roster?
Might not even be. Who knows? Right?
Okay.
They're talking Rattler. Obviously, the unknown quarterback behind the starter is always going to get the fans fired up, right? Because who knows, right? It could be anything. It's like great, but we know what Carr is, and Carr is not a playoff caliber quarterback, in my opinion. And this team is just going to continue to flounder under him. I mean, we'll get fantasy points where we can, but as far as being an NFL franchise, I don't think he's on that roster again the start of next season. So, and he might get a job starting somewhere else as a bridge quarterback, but who knows what you're getting there. If someone's willing to let me get out of a $22 million contract in RSO and I'm getting a 5th back, I honestly, I'm doing it. Obviously try and milk it for all you can, right? It's super flex, blah, 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 whatever. But yeah, I'd be looking to move that ASAP. I have him in a 1 quarterback league. I got Dak and Herbert in an RSO one, and I've been trying to sell them for the last 6 months. So
interesting. Because didn't he have a really good run to end last season? Like he was one of the more efficient quarterbacks during the last 6 or 7 or 8 games of last season.
At times he did, but
okay.
It's just I don't know. It's too much inconsistency for me.
Between the 4, I need to pick 2: Curl, Delpit, Metellus, or Love. For me, it's pretty easy. It's going to be Curl and Love. I think we've talked a lot about Curl's upside. Delpit's name has been mentioned quite a few times already today as well. But I love Love. Super high safe floor. He's very consistent year in and year out. He's done it the last 2 or 3 seasons in Seattle. So it's going to go Curl and Love for me for 4 of those, or 2 of those 4. So well-being.
He's done a good job curating his our defensive back room here. So
yes,
I think Delpit. It's Delpit and Love for me. I love the consistency there. I get yeah. I still love Curl. I don't know, man. There's a lot of talk of Lake getting a lot of the stuff in the slot too. Where it's like Curl might not maybe lose some snaps there. Again, this is. We're splitting some really fine hairs here because you got a ton of great options. So, literally blindfold, throw darts. I think you're okay. That's how good your defensive back room is here. But if I have to pick, I think I'm going to just go Love Delpit. I like what I can get there a little bit more.
Yeah, that's definitely a great defensive back room. Kind of coming back to Brad's question earlier about Hubbard, Latu, Yaya, and Phillips. I like Hubbard as New England should run the ball a lot, and that's Sam's strength. Thanks, fellas. I have the same jersey, wore it to the Finns. All right. That's what I was thinking. It's always nice when you can get a little group think going on. That way you're not on an island. They have someone else to blame. We appreciate that. We're here for that. Need to pick 2: Jimmy Ward, Chuck Clark, or Von Bell. Chuck Clark for sure.
Eileen Von Bell is my 2 there.
I was thinking same.
He's played with Lou Amarumo before. This isn't he's coming in blind. He's had a full off season. I just like Bell should, I think, be relatively productive overall.
PPR 1 quarterback, start 1: Jaden Daniels or Trevor Lawrence.
I lean Jaden Daniels, and I know that we talked about lean into what you know at times. I know that Trevor Lawrence is pretty mid at times. So to me, that I love the rushing upside of Jaden Daniels, and I think the game script's going to be pretty pretty negative for them. So plenty of opportunities overall, I think, as far as Jaden Daniel goes. If you want more certainty, definitely feel free to lean into Trevor Lawrence. I don't think it's a bad one. I just if it's my lineup, I'm putting Jaden Daniels in. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think I'm expecting a lot of points in the Jacksonville-Miami game with Trevor Lawrence there. And but I like Jake said, I think the rushing upside is gonna. We saw that with Lamar on Thursday night. Like Lamar was, almost like over 100 yards rushing and stuff like that. That is such a game changer in your lineup. So I'm gonna lead Jane Daniels as well. What do you do when league mates ask a question about Derek Carr and they only have one quarterback? Would you rather just 2 win 14 games Superflex or 3? Just 2 and 14.
Well, I think she's asking like how the narrative is when you're doing trade negotiations here. I'm
Sure.
thinking, right? So, I mean, yeah, I guess it really depends on what you're putting in there in terms of that flex position. If you got a strong enough scoring, like I guess I play in a lot of 6-point passing touchdown leagues too. So like quarterbacks are always like the bee's knees. But and if you can't, and if there's no other quarterbacks to pick up, I mean, and quarterback scoring, even quarterback 2s are strong, compared to wide receiver 1s and RB 1s. I mean, that's to me, that's really the narrative, right? You're just looking at points per game. This is what you can get, and quarterbacks touch the ball on every play. So that's you can't get more consistent than that versus a wide receiver who could get 10 targets one week or 5 the next. So I think that's really the narrative that you spin.
And I think the position with injuries and things like that through the bye weeks, it just makes his value so much higher. We saw on Friday night, Jordan Love's going to be missing some time. Like, just maybe that's the team to go and see if they are looking for a quarterback for a couple weeks. Jordan Love's probably going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. And then by the time he gets back to healthy, it's half the season. If that team is a contender and just needs some help at the quarterback spot, maybe that's your trade target. Oh, so Wallbang went with Love. He's going to flip a coin between Curl and Delpit, and the coin said Delpit. So, all right.
Coin's never wrong.
Can't go wrong. Yep.
I'm adjusting all my lineups quick.
Tails never fails, right? So, no one's asking about Carr. Yeah. And I think you're probably going to see that. He's not a sexy name to be picking right now. And so maybe we'll see where it's at after week 1. One last question from Wallbang: Kaiser White or Terrell Dodson today? I'm a huge Dodson fan, but I think Kaiser White's probably going to be getting a lot of run at linebacker there. I think that the game script speaks to a White game there. So love Dodson, but I think White's just a better play.
This week I'm picking White over Dodson. Yep, and that's no shade to Dodson.
Yep. Lou 32 is coming back. Start one safety, Cameron Bynum or Fitzpatrick. I've never been a Fitzpatrick truther. Just really inconsistent, I think. Bynum had a great last season. Not really sure what that defense is going to bring this year with the 3 safeties between him, Metellus, and Harrison Smith. But I'm going to lean Bynum in this one. Just probably a little more consistency than Fitzpatrick's boom or bust.
Yeah, I know they got some solid tacklers there in terms of Queen and Roberts in front of Fitzpatrick. So I think that's a lot of times when he's feasted, there's been even more porous linebacker play in front of him. That he was able to make plays 6, 7, 8 yards down the field. So Bynum, this is close for me. I mean, gosh, I hate to have us go back to the coin, but
I was going to say the magical coin.
So you know what, Jeff? I'm truly 50-50 on this. I'm gonna roll with you. So let's go Bynum over Fitzpatrick. And I think at this point, Jeff, I apologize. Schedule is going to force me to dip out here. So
yeah, we're 2 comments away here. I think actually they're just sending some, hey Thomas, what's up? Thomas is a great friend of the show. We've been doing a lot of stuff with some roster evaluations and stuff. So hopefully found some value there. Thanks for the advice, fellas. Good luck to everyone today. Same to you. And last one, quick fab thought. How much of $1,000 would you go on Bowen?
mean, if your linebacker needed 10%, so $100. I'm confident that he's going to be playing over Dean and White. So
yeah, especially White, especially what we saw. They didn't do anything to dispel them coming off the field or anything like that. So I'm definitely in on board. So,
yeah.
Jake, this has been awesome. We are closing in on 2 hours here. This has been a great week one. Looking forward to coming back next week, doing the same thing again. Get your questions in. Hopefully, we'll have a little more consistency with some data and some trends, and we'll get going from there. So, Jake, thank you so much for jumping on. I know it wasn't probably the easiest week for you, but we appreciate it. So, good luck to everyone in week one. We'll catch up with you next time, and